First and foremost, let's give a shout out to the late, great Luther Vandross.
When the crown gets heavier, Kendrick's Grammy reign and the silence that speaks volumes. Look, real talk, there's a moment in hip-hop where the scoreboard changes and suddenly everything you thought you knew about the hierarchy gets flipped upside down. February 2025 just gave us one of those moments, and if you're paying attention, I mean really paying attention, you caught the seismic shift that just rocked the culture to its core. 27. That's the number that's got the streets talking, the industry shook, and one particular Toronto megastar somewhere contemplating his next chess move. Kendrick Lamar just didn't break Jay-Z's Grammy record for most wins by a rapper. He demolished it, leaving HOV's 25 in the rearview like it was standing still. And the kicker? A significant chunk of those wins came from Not Like Us, the very track that had the entire world picking sides in one of the nastiest, most personal rap beefs we've seen in decades. But here's where it gets interesting, where the plot thickens like that Toronto humidity in August. Drake, the man who's built an empire on being petty, on subliminal shots, on making sure everybody knows when he's feeling some type of way, has been eerily quiet. Not a tweet. Not an Instagram story with carefully selected lyrics. Not even a cryptic emoji sequence that his fans could decode like the Rosetta Stone. Just silence. And in hip-hop, sometimes what you don't say screams louder than a whole diss track. If you're new to Celeb Clope, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now because we don't do surface-level takes here. We dig deep into the culture, the psychology, the chess moves behind the headlines. Subscribe and join a community that understands hip-hop is more than just music. It's a blood sport played in 3-minute rounds. So let's break down what this Grammy moment really means, because this isn't just about statues and acceptance speeches. This is about legacy, about power, about who gets to call themselves the king when the dust settles. Kendrick walked into that Grammy ceremony already carrying the weight of what Not Like Us represented. Not just a song, but a cultural moment, a line in the sand, a declaration that he wasn't just coming for Drake's crown, he was coming for his entire mythology. 5 Grammys. One night. Record of the Year for a track that essentially called Drake a colonizer, a culture vulture, questioned everything from his authenticity to his personal life, and did it over a beat so infectious that even people who'd never picked a side were bumping it at barbecues. The Academy didn't just reward Kendrick, they co-signed his entire perspective on the beef. They said, yeah, this is art. This is what matters. This is what excellence looks like. Now, imagine you're Drake. You've spent 2 decades building yourself into arguably the biggest rapper alive. You've got the streams, the hits, the Billboard records, the cultural omnipresence. You've weathered beefs with Meek Mill, Pusha T, and countless others, always coming out on top in the court of public opinion, or at least staying commercially untouchable. You've positioned yourself as untouchable, as the final boss, as the guy who wins even when he loses because the money keeps rolling in. And then Kendrick doesn't just beat you in a rap battle, because let's keep it 100. Most people outside the Drake stans agreed Kendrick bodied him across multiple tracks, but he gets validated by the very institution you've publicly expressed frustration with. Drake said it himself, the Grammys aren't about facts, they're about opinions. But what happens when those opinions align perfectly with your biggest rival's narrative about you? Make sure you're subscribed to Celeb Clope because we're just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss where this story goes next. The psychology here is fascinating, almost Shakespearean in its complexity. Drake's built his entire persona on being unbothered, on success being the best revenge, on letting the numbers do the talking. But Kendrick's Grammy sweep isn't something you can just stream your way out of. It's not a metric Drake can compete with by dropping another playlist or going viral on TikTok. This is the culture saying, we chose him. We validated his perspective. We crowned him. 27 wins. That's not just surpassing Jay-Z. That's entering rarefied air. That's Mount Rushmore territory. That's the kind of achievement that textbooks and documentaries will reference decades from now. And the cruel irony? A chunk of those wins came from the GNX album era, the same project that birthed the song that might have done permanent damage to Drake's street credibility and cultural standing. See, here's what people don't understand about hip-hop beef in 2025. It's not just about who has the better bars anymore, though that matters. It's about who controls the narrative, who the culture backs, who gets institutional validation. Kendrick didn't just win the battle in the streets and on streaming platforms. He won it in the boardrooms, in the Academy voting sessions, in the spaces where cultural legitimacy gets codified and preserved. Drake's silence speaks to a calculated retreat, a strategic reassessment. You don't stay on top for 15 years by being stupid or impulsive. You watch, you wait, you let the moment breathe. But make no mistake, Drake's somewhere in his Toronto compound, probably in that studio he's turned into a second home, cooking up something. Whether it's on this upcoming Iceman album or through strategic collaborations, the response is coming. It has to. Because in hip-hop, silence can be interpreted as concession, and Drake's entire brand is built on never conceding anything. Subscribe to Celeb Clope if you haven't already. We're the ones giving you the unfiltered truth about where hip-hop culture is heading. P.S. The internet's been ruthless, as it always is. Drake's mentions are flooded with Kendrick fans celebrating, with memes comparing the Grammy counts, with Not Like Us lyrics weaponized in ways that have to sting. There's a certain poetic justice to it all. Drake's made a career out of being petty online, out of subtle shots and calculated shade. Now he's on the receiving end of that same energy, multiplied by millions. But here's the thing about Drake. He's survived worse. The Pusha T story of Adidon situation exposed deeply personal information, and Drake weathered that storm. Multiple accusations of cultural appropriation haven't slowed his commercial dominance. He's proven to be remarkably resilient, almost anti-fragile in how he absorbs criticism and controversy and somehow converts it into fuel for continued relevance. The question isn't whether Drake will respond. He will eventually because his ego won't allow him not to. The question is how. Does he go nuclear and try to outbar Kendrick on a level playing field of pure lyricism? Does he lean into his pop sensibilities and let commercial success be his rebuttal? Does he collaborate his way back into cultural conversation, surrounding himself with cosigns and features that rebuild the narrative? Smart Money says he takes the third route, maybe mixing it with the second. Drake understands media manipulation better than almost anyone in music. He knows how to control rollouts, how to create moments, how to make people talk. This Iceman project could be his counter-narrative, his attempt to reframe the conversation on his terms. Hit that subscribe button for Celeb Clope because we'll be here breaking down every move as this saga unfolds. But there's a deeper conversation here about what the Grammys' outcome represents for hip-hop's future. For years, the criticism has been that the Academy doesn't understand rap, doesn't value it properly, gives awards based on commercial appeal rather than artistic merit. Kendrick's sweep, especially for a song as confrontational and specific as Not Like Us, suggests maybe something shifting. Maybe the institution is starting to recognize that hip-hop's most vital moments come from its conflicts, its authenticity battles, its refusal to be sanitized. Drake's Grammy drought in comparison, despite being the most commercially successful rapper of the streaming era, tells its own story. The Academy has consistently chosen artistry over accessibility, complexity over catchiness. That's got to frustrate someone who's mastered the formula for hits, who's broken every streaming record imaginable, who's been undeniably dominant for over a decade. The silence from Drake might also reflect a maturation, a realization that some battles can't be won in the court of public opinion, that sometimes you have to let your work speak over time rather than react immediately. He's reportedly focused on Iceman, on collaborations, on building rather than responding. That's either strategic brilliance or quiet acceptance. Time will tell which. What we do know is this. Hip-hop thrives on tension, on rivalry, on the back and forth that elevates everyone involved. Kendrick's Grammy dominance doesn't end the conversation with Drake. It intensifies it, adds another layer, raises the stakes for whatever comes next. The culture's watching. The industry's watching. And somewhere in Toronto, despite the silence, you better believe Drake's watching too, calculating his next move in a game where Kendrick just changed the rules by winning where it counts most, in the permanent record of hip-hop history. This is Celeb Clope, where we keep it real about hip-hop culture, power moves, and the beefs that define eras. Subscribe, stay locked in, and keep coming back because this story's far from over. The next chapter's being written right now, and you'll want to be here when it dro.